Hey! Welcome to IC Yap, Young Adults Podcast.
Hey! Welcome to Young Adults Podcast, where we will be talking about mental health's grip on young adults. Almost 50% of young adults report suffering with their mental health. We want to open up the room to talk about what it's like for young adults to live through and live happily with a mental health diagnosis. We want to talk to experts, teens, college students, their doctors, and members in our community to get a better understanding of mental health in young adults. Come join us. Hi, everyone. I'm James. I'm 25 years old, and I'm a member at the Clubhouse, the Independent Center in St. Louis.
Awesome. And then I am Abby, and I work on the unit and work with members and staff kind of collaboratively. I've been in the mental health field for around, it'll be 2 years. I've been working here in February, and then I previously worked at another nonprofit working with kids with varying abilities, which was awesome. But today we're going to talk about young adults' mental health and kind of why it is so important to understand, why it's so important to do research on, to, advocate for yourself, to understand kind of, how young adults are impacted by mental health. So we have some statistics that we really wanted to start out this podcast with. And so I'm going to read them off. It is young adults, 1 in 3 experience a mental illness. 1 in 10 experience a serious mental illness. And 3.8 million young adults last year had thoughts of suicide. So before we kind of get into this, James, what does that make you feel like when you read some of those statistics?
I think it's alarming, and I think that it's unfortunate that so many people are experiencing mental illness, serious mental illness, what have you, and they don't have access to resources. It's really sad. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah. And how do you think that kind of affects our age group in particular, being a young adult? You have a lot of things that you're dealing with when you're a young adult, but when you read those statistics and you are experiencing, a mental health crisis, or you feel like you're going through mental health struggles yourself, what do you think someone our age, how does this particularly affect young adults?
I mean, I think it affects everything from things like self-esteem to housing. Yeah. There's a lot of, homelessness and housing instability, hunger. I was fortunate to have a really good support system. And a lot of people don't have that and don't have access, or they don't know about access.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're a young adult, you have the early onset of symptoms. So you might be experiencing, mental health for the first time. You might, not understand why you're staying in bed all day. You might not understand why you're having thoughts like this or why you're having thoughts of suicide. You might feel like you're the only one because you are young and you really haven't have those experiences yet. So I really think that, I know many young adults who really struggled to get through high school. That's kind of when they had their early onset of symptoms. And then I also knew a lot of males when I was in college who had early onset of symptoms and for schizophrenia and things like that, because it really hits our population, our age group, really majorly. And they really struggled understanding that. And then the hardest thing, getting in with a doctor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that can be an absolute nightmare.
Getting in with a psychiatrist or getting on medication. Does the medication work for you? And then getting to a therapist. Do you trust the therapist?
Right. Or finding, it's not just finding a psychiatrist, it's finding a good psychiatrist. That is so incredibly
a good psychiatrist.
Difficult. Yeah. I went through, 8 psychiatrists.
Yes.
And they threw all sorts of diagnoses at me.
Yeah.
And none of them thought schizophrenia, which is what I was diagnosed with, which is what I'm being treated for, which is what I actually have.
But it took 8 psychiatrists to figure that out.
It took, I don't know if it was actually, it was a lot. It was many psychiatrists before we got to the point where I was put on clozapine, which has just been absolutely life-changing for me.
Right, but how long did it take to get to that place? You were a young male, experiencing these things for the first time. And how long did it take from that onset of symptoms to get the proper help that you needed?
Probably from the time I was 10 to 21.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
See? And you just wanted to feel yourself. Like, you wanted to be able to like function in society and have a social group and like live your life. You wanted to be able to like go to school and feel safe in your own body and, you know, experience life as a young adult, how they like perceive it to be. But really, being a young adult is really hard.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really hard. I mean, even if you don't have, you know, severe mental health struggles, being a young adult in general is hard.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about social media's impact on young adults and how that can kind of add into all the things with mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I think social media it's a double-edged sword, you know. Some parts of it are good, some parts of it are terrible.
Yeah.
And I think people growing up in the age of social media, I mean, they're always connected to people, which I mean, that means they're also connected to people that they don't necessarily want to be connected to.
Yeah.
And that can lead to, you know, bullying, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, comparing yourself to different people. Yeah, I
have a love-hate relationship with social media. I went to school very far away. So being able to like connect with my friends, keep up with them has been like a huge blessing and really good for my mental health, like keeping up with them.
Yeah.
However, the other side of social media has given me like body issues and struggles that I have personally even faced with social media because you see only highlights of people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would say almost fully recovered from an eating disorder. And I would say earlier in my life when I was really going through it, like social media was just so horrible because I was comparing myself to other people. And it's so fake. So much of it is so fake. You know, people are photoshopping their photos.
Someone who's struggling with their mental health, especially a young adult who's struggling with maybe an eating disorder, you know, maybe a mental health crisis, when they're getting on that social media, they're thinking that they are the only ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've completely cut out social media except for Facebook Messenger, which I use because I'm part of a NAMI young adult group.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's great. A lot of people on clozapine.
Yeah. Getting resources from each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it's really nice.
That's
yeah, but
really
other
nice.
than that, I really don't use social media, and I'm so thankful that I've managed to cut the cord. Yeah, because I mean, in high school, for example, I was really active on Instagram, and looking back on it, it definitely affected my mental health negatively because I was really obsessed with how many likes I was getting.
Oh yeah.
Who was
we all went through that phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really terrible, and I've completely cut that stuff out.
You think people don't? Oh, they didn't comment on my photo. They don't like me.
Right. Exactly.
When in reality, like, they didn't even really see your photo. They were just like scrolling and doing whatever. Like, it doesn't mean they're less of your friend.
Exactly.
I also think that social media kind of adds into the aspect of where you're supposed to be at in life. And how does mental health kind of play into that, of this kind of question of where are you supposed to be at in life, James?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's that expectation that, you know, by 21 you're doing this, by 23 you're doing this, by 25 you're doing this. And for someone with a serious mental illness, that is just not always realistic. And we have to give ourselves grace.
I feel like it's not realistic in general.
True. Yeah.
Like, being a young adult and facing challenges, like, if you're facing challenges, you're going to face challenges as a young adult, regardless if you have mental illness. Adding on a mental health on top of that, like struggling with your mental health on top of, oh, James, you're supposed to be at this stage in life. When realistically, I feel like society is trying to break the barrier of like, oh, you don't need to get married early. You know, people are waiting longer. Oh, some people aren't having kids. However, when it comes to like jobs and young adults and college and things like that, I feel like the stigma is like so present.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I really felt a lot of pressure. My parents have been really great with my meds and my diagnosis and just helping me in general.
Yeah.
It's like I would absolutely love to be able to work a job, earn money for myself, have my own place, but I have a really serious mental illness. I'm on powerful medication. Like, that's just not realistic for me right now.
Like, maintaining that schedule and right now it might not be realistic for you. And that's okay. You are, you know, figuring out your life. You're working on things. You're improving yourself every single day. And I think that is the most important. And, you know, you have an amazing support system. However, I know a lot of people who don't have an amazing support system.
For sure.
You know, I mean, I talk to young adults every single day and I hear every single person is different, but, you know, they're really struggling with maintaining a position because of their medications that they're on. Their medications are affecting them. And I've sat down and talked with young adults and said, okay, you know, your medications are causing you to be sick every single day. We need to get you into the doctor and we need to like figure this out together. Well, when we go and do that, you know, they might miss a couple days of work, or, you know, they might have something like that where they're missing work and they're not able to go that week. So they're not able to maintain that job the way that they want to. I think that every young adult has the option or has the ability to eventually get to that place. However, when you have an onset of symptoms and you're dealing with a lot of these things, it might not be feasible at that moment. And understanding that where you're at and what you're working towards is good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I felt a lot of that pressure in high school. Mm-hmm. Like, I was going to a public high school, and it just wasn't working. I basically, I was just falling apart at that point.
Yeah.
I couldn't do normal high school anymore, so I went to Logos, which is a school for people who have, you know, mental health issues, sometimes behavioral issues, but primarily mental health. And even that, I couldn't do it. And I ended up dropping out. And I did get my GED that summer.
See, but that is an accomplishment. Yeah. Like, of all the things you were facing, like, you did it and you got it.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have taken a different avenue, but you got it.
Yeah, and that felt really good. But again, I was putting so much pressure on myself to, you know, be quote unquote normal, and it just wasn't feasible. It wasn't realistic. Yeah.
And I mean, I do think that young adults, something that you really need to know is that everyone is going to have their challenges in life. Whether they come later in life, whether they come early in life, whether they're in your childhood, or if you're middle-aged and you hit, you know, everyone's going to have problems in their life. And you're going to have to figure out a way to, like, cope with those, seek help, you know, and move your life forward. And I think that when a young adult is facing a lot of those struggles, like, I can't get through school, or I can't, at the end of the day, you really have to focus on your health and what is going to make you well in that moment, and know that you're working towards something. I think setting goals is amazing, but someone's goals might be getting out of bed in the morning, and the person next to them's goals might be being a doctor. Yeah. There's different goals, and I don't think you should make anyone's goals feel small, especially young adults. I mean, I'm a young adult. I'm doing my best every day. Is my every day great? Do I say the wrong things sometimes? Sure. Am I the best at work? I try to be. But that doesn't mean I'm succeeding every single day.
Yeah. Everyone's best looks totally different, but they all have equal value. Yeah, I mean, I come into the Clubhouse once a week, and as of right now, that's all I can do. Yeah. I'm hoping to come in more in the future, but as of right now, even coming to the Clubhouse for, 3 or so hours is so incredibly exhausting to me. Yeah. Like, I crash every time.
But you've stayed consistent on coming in. You've met people through the young adult group. Like, you are doing all of the things, and hopefully down the line in a month or in 2 months, you can come in on Tuesdays and work on the podcast or work on, our social outings, maybe get those better in a better place, because we know we need to get those in a better place. But things like that, like, okay, I'm going to come in on, starting right after Christmas on Tuesdays, I'm going to come in and I'm going to work on social programming or whatever it is, Yeah. I think the Clubhouse gives a lot of options. It's nothing's forced upon you. You're working at your own pace, and you're learning, how to cope with maybe something you're dealing with trying to hit the goals. You want to always be looking towards, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, and I'm going to be moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
We have on here to talk about access to care and early onset of symptoms. So we talked about that briefly in the beginning. I think this is a major struggle for young adults with mental health. Access to care is something that I have struggled with as being a mental health professional. I've struggled getting people access to care, especially with those onset of symptoms. I also have struggled with a lot of symptoms present itself similarly. Like a lot of mental health, different diagnoses can present similarly.
Yes, for sure.
So it takes, like you said, it took 10 years for you to get the right medication, a psychiatrist who you trust it, I'm sure a therapist who you need it, but to be able to trust those people and get that access. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, access to care is so incredibly difficult for a lot of people. I mean, between finding a doctor, finding a doctor, finding a therapist, finding what meds work for them, finding what meds they need. Insurance can be a major issue for people trying to get access to care. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it took me a decade to find the right psychiatrist and get on the right meds. And not only did I go through half a dozen psychiatrists, I went through half a dozen therapists as well, and nobody was like schizophrenia. No one, until one doctor finally diagnosed it and put me on meds, and she nailed it.
She got it. She finally got it.
Yeah. So yeah, access to care is so.
I didn't even think, honestly. I should have, when we were writing down kind of a script for this. I wasn't even fully thinking of insurance when you brought that up.
Yeah.
That is a huge cost of care.
Yeah.
I mean, like when we were writing the script, obviously I've helped people with like insurance and getting on things, but for some reason I didn't think about that when we were writing the script, but how important that is, and the cost of your medications, the cost of getting help.
Yep. Like,
where are you getting that support from?
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a lot. Yeah. So access to care, I think that one little light that we can shed on getting access to care is there is places that can help you. And I know the Independence Center is one of them that can help you get a community support worker who's helping you get on insurance and getting you to that psychiatrist. And if that psychiatrist doesn't work, they're working to get you another one. Right? So community support is a great one. Having a place to go in a community, so having the Clubhouse and being able to join in on a young adults group. And, I don't know where everyone's going to be listening to this podcast from, but there's a Clubhouse. There's 350 clubhouses. I think it's 32 different countries who all follow the same model of independence, and really you are choosing your care, which is so important.
And also, at the Clubhouse, the staff are more used to seeing people with severe mental illnesses. Other than, like I said, the psychiatrists that I saw, most of them only deal with, 98% of what they deal with is anxiety and depression. They don't see schizophrenia.
Right.
And so again, it's just so hard.
And we're lucky in St. Louis that you have a lot of different doctors that you can go to. There's a lot, but finding that and getting access to it, obviously you didn't have a great time finding that, but we do have access to a lot.
Yes. However,
being in a big city.
Yeah. Another thing with access to care is actually finding someone who will diagnose you properly, prescribe the right meds. But like I said, I'm on clozapine. So many psychiatrists don't prescribe it because of the potential side effects.
Okay.
So not only do I have to find a psychiatrist that will diagnose it, I have to find a psychiatrist who will actually prescribe the right meds
that you need.
That I need.
And I know a lot of young adults who are they've tried 4 or 5 different meds for what they need, and they're not finding one that works for them.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's hard.
Yep.
Especially when you just want to figure out your life. You just want to finish that school. You just want to make friends.
You just want to get up in the morning.
You want to feel good.
Yeah.
You deserve to feel good.
Yeah.
And you deserve to have the same opportunities as everyone else. And when you feasibly cannot do them, that's hard. And I think that finding support in a clubhouse or finding support in people you trust is so important.
Definitely.
So we also have down here talking about finding a balance in life, having that be community, maintaining a schedule, being on time, knowing that you can't feel happy all the time, and making reasonable expectations for yourself. We also have here being outside, enjoying the small things in life, and being okay with where you're at and where you're wanting to go. Right? So I think one of those that I really want to touch on is reasonable expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is so important?
Well, like we said, social media and everything, you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, and you're seeing like, even if you're not on social media and actively comparing yourself to those people, your peers, especially, like in high school, people are planning on going to college.
Right.
And they have all these plans and they're doing all these things. And you think to yourself, you get down on yourself.
Right. Like, why can't I do that?
Right.
Or why? But you can. You just need the right support.
My dad actually printed out a schedule for me, so every morning I can just look at the schedule and be like, okay, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And it's, reasonable expectations.
Yep.
I do what I can. I bike every day.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Yeah, I bike every day. I shower as often as I can. It's very difficult for me to get in the shower. But yeah, no, it's reasonable expectations are so important
and setting goals for what you want to work towards.
Yeah.
Like you and I just talked about, maybe you would do it, like you would love to do a van life or something. Like having those goals for yourself and like setting expectations on how to get there. Sure, you and your dad have been talking about how are you going to build up those, we're going to be doing these ones and then what?
Yeah, well, for me personally, I just take it one day at a time.
One day at a time.
If I start thinking about the future, I will have a panic attack.
I think a lot of young adults feel the same way.
Yeah.
I think if I think of what's coming at the end of this year, I just want to get sick.
Yeah.
It really makes me anxious. Because there's a lot of things that hit you when you're a young adult. And then on top of that, dealing with a severe mental illness obviously is a difficult thing. But just the young adult in general really has a lot of things.
Well, I really hope this podcast will reach people and just inform them that the Clubhouse exists. We are here.
Yeah.
Because so many people don't know about it. Mental health professionals don't know about it.
Oh, for sure. And for a place for young adults to come and meet other young adults, join in on the podcast, join in on our meetings, join in on the work order day, be a part of the Clubhouse. I do think that it's such a good resource. You need a lot of resources when you're a young adult. You need social connections. You need a community. You need people you can go to ask for support. You need that guidance for your goals and things like that. Having a place that has those social connections can make you feel part of something and, really get you connected with the community who wants you to move forward. Now what?
Yeah, exactly.
I really feel like that now what question, and to have a place that can be that next answer.
Yeah.
And, want to support you and say, hey, we have this abundance of resources connected to us and we want to help you is just really special.
Yeah. Well, for me, like when I was released from the hospital, they sent me to group therapy a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And the problem with that for me is that I can't talk my way out of schizophrenia. I need to be properly medicated.
Right.
So all of the therapy in the world didn't help me.
Right. And of course, it's a person by person case.
For sure, yes.
But some people are not comfortable sharing in a group of people that they don't know.
Well, yeah, that too. But for me, again, like I needed to be on the proper medication, and they just wouldn't. Nobody would figure it out. Nobody could figure it out. It was really frustrating in retrospect.
It's very, very frustrating. I feel like, there's a lot of frustrations when you're a young adult dealing with mental health, but especially like when you simply just cannot get what you need and you're trying your hardest and you're trying to stay alive and you're trying to keep everything together and you're reaching out for help and you're getting help, but it's the wrong help. Then it was no point in the first place.
Exactly. Very true.
Anything to conclude our episode? I know we kind of bounced all over the place, kind of going over just conversations about young adults' mental health, but I hope that in the future we can, narrow down some of these things, maybe have a full episode on social media, a full episode on access to care, finding balance, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I just want to reiterate how important it is for people to know about the Clubhouse.
I know. We could talk about that all the whole time.
It is such a great resource, and shockingly few people know about it.
And I don't know why that is. I think we really need to, especially as our young adult group grows, we need to reach out to individuals in our community. We need to reach out to shelters. We need to reach out to hospitals
Yeah.
and let them know, like, hey, we're here. Can we solve the world's problems? No. Are we trying our best to, like, be a healthy, safe, and easily accessible resource? Yes. And I think our group, I personally feel so open talking in our group. I've talked about my family. I've talked about personal struggles in our group. And I just know that, like, I feel safe in our group and I feel connected to everyone in our group. I know if I had a problem, if there was something going on, that I could really come to that Friday meeting and express it. And I know that people genuinely care about everyone in the group.
Yeah,
definitely. I think about when I'm off of work and I leave this place, I'm still thinking about what all of you guys are doing. It was a beautiful day, like last Saturday, and I was with my family, and I literally was thinking out loud, but I said, like, I really hope James is on a bike ride because he would like to be beautiful outside. He needs to be outside on a bike ride.
I'm sure I was.
I'm sure you were too. But yes. So please know that Independence Center is a resource, and, you know, let other people know around you. They might know a young adult who needs these acts. Obviously, it's not just young adults. The Independence Center is for any adult above the age of 18 who has a severe mental illness. And, I mean, the Clubhouse is open really for anyone. But specifically young adults, we would love to have more young adults be coming through the building to get those resources.
Definitely. Yep.
All right. And I think the next episode, they're going to be talking about dual diagnosis, and it's going to be with Jason and Mason. That's kind of confusing. Jason and Mason.
Yep.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you.
You too.